Okay, today I want to continue on with the atoning sacrifice of Jesus. It is extremely important for us to understand how Jesus' sacrifice saved us from our sins. If we do not have this basic belief, if we do not get the gospel right, we do not have saving faith. And there's so many false doctrines out there. And just because they say we believe in Jesus does not mean that they do believe in Jesus and that they have saving faith. I'll give you an example of that. If you go to the Church of Science, if you go to their website, they will say in the front that they believe in Jesus. They would say that Jesus showed us the way. A lot of the things that they will say in their website seems to point to the fact that they are actually believers in Jesus Christ, and that therefore they are saved and will go to heaven. But actually, their beliefs have nothing to do with a true gospel. And even a slight thing like Jesus points us to the way is false doctrine. Jesus does not point us to the way. Jesus is the way. And when you truly understand what these people are teaching, when you go and you hear their sermons and you read the books, this is what they understand. They also believe in this secret power, and they will teach that Jesus was the first man to understand his godliness and to understand the secret of visualization, the secret of being able to bring about and to create reality. So Jesus showed us the way. He showed us the way how to use this force and to visualize our own reality, and therefore to bring about healing, to bring about a financial gain, to bring about anything we want. These people actually do not believe that Jesus is the Son of God. If they say that he is the Son of God, they just mean that we are all gods. So he is the Son of God. I am also. So they will claim to be God themselves. He's the first to understand that and the first to use this force. They do not believe that Jesus had to die for their sins, and so their faith in Jesus is not a saving faith. They have another gospel, and this gospel will not bring about salvation. The true gospel understands that people are sinners, and sinners are bound to hell. They have to be punished in an eternal lake of fire, and that the only way they can escape this punishment is through what Jesus Christ did on the cross. Jesus Christ took upon their punishment on the cross so that they would not need to be punished. And only through belief in this message are you saved. Isaiah 53 has a lot of amazing prophecies about what Jesus would do when he comes and how he would die. And it repeats over and over and over again that Jesus took upon our punishment. You cannot miss it. And it repeats over again that it was the will of God for this to happen. And it says this many times. And so we must look at Isaiah 53 and understand what it says. It starts out by asking the question, who has believed our message? Which is a very fitting way to start. Isaiah 53:1. Who has believed our message? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? Who is ready to listen to this message? And who is ready to understand it? Whoever believes it, it is actually the Lord who has revealed it to them. Isaiah 53:2. He grew up before him like a tender shoot and like a root out of a dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. We must understand here that the Messiah, when he came on earth, there was nothing about him that this world would actually desire. And you see this whole nonsense about attracting reality and bringing about wealth into your life and bringing happiness and bringing healing. These churches that teach this are attracted to the same thing the world is attracted to. But you must understand that when the Messiah came, there was nothing attractive about him. Isaiah 53:3. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. Like one from whom people hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him in low esteem. When the Messiah came, he was despised, rejected, and held in low esteem by the world. You know, if you're a Christian and you're looking to be valued by this world, and you're looking for this world to esteem you, you're in the wrong boat. You're walking the wrong road, you see, because broad is the road that leads to destruction, but narrow is the way that leads to life. And this world will not esteem the Christian life. They will despise it and they will reject it, just like they despised and rejected the Messiah. They feel contempt for his way of life. It was repugnant to them. They dismissed it as inadequate, inappropriate, and it was not to their taste. They did not respect and admire the life of Jesus. Isaiah 53:4. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering. Yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him and afflicted. Everything that Jesus did was done for us. The word that he bore our sins, or he bore our punishment, is repeated over and over again in Isaiah 53. Jesus took on our sins and pains and suffering, and he bore them for us. Because he suffered so much, and because he had so much pain, and because he died, people thought that he was stricken and afflicted by God in punishment. So they thought that God was actually punishing him, but they were wrong. We must understand that God sent his Son to be a sacrifice for our sin. It was his will for him to die. This was not a punishment for what Jesus had done. God is not punishing his Son. But the world thought he was being punished because of the suffering he went through. The suffering and punishment that Jesus went through was the suffering and punishment that we deserved. It was for us. Isaiah 53:5. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. He was not pierced by our transgressions, but for them. He didn't have to die because that's what sinful man does, is we just hate people and we kill them. No, he had to die for our transgressions. The purpose of his piercing was to take away our transgressions. The purpose of his crushing was to take away our iniquities. And it says here that his punishment brought us peace. It purchased peace for us. It was put on him instead of us. So the punishment was taken by Jesus so that we could have peace. It also says that we are healed by his wounds. We are not instructed by them, but we are healed by them. His wounds replaced the ones that we were to get. Isaiah 53:6. We all like sheep have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquities of us all. What was everyone's sin, according to Isaiah 53:6, is that we all turned and we went our own way. We did not listen to God. And God did not punish Jesus, but God put on Jesus our sins. It says here that the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. So it was God who laid on top of Jesus our punishment so that he could carry our punishment for us so that we would not have to be punished. Isaiah 53:7. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearer is silent, so he did not open his mouth. God did not abuse his Son. God did not force Jesus to die for us. God and Jesus both agreed what needed to be done. And Jesus went willingly to the cross, like a sheep in front of its shearers. Jesus did not open his mouth. He kept silent, and he could have easily stopped what was happening to him. But he took on this oppression and affliction, knowing it was needed for our joy and our peace. Listen to these two verses. Matthew 26:53. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? So Jesus says, don't you think I can stop this? Like, it's no problem. I can stop this. But I willingly lay down my life. No one can take it from me. Hebrews 12:2. Fix your eyes upon Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of your faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Hebrews 12:2 gives us a reason why Jesus was willing to be pierced, willing to die for our sins. It was for the joy that was set before him. He understood that once he died and he took upon our punishment, that we would be set free and that we would find joy and that we would find peace. And so this brought joy to him, and therefore he was willing to go through this suffering for us. Isaiah 53:8. By oppression and judgment he was taken away, yet who of his generation protested? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgression of my people he was punished. Jesus was judged and killed unjustly, but no one stood up for him. No one protested this. And once more it says here, for the transgressions of my people he was punished. What's the reason why Jesus died? For our transgressions. They could not get clearer than this. Isaiah 53:9. He was assigned the grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, though he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. This whole chapter has lots of amazing prophecies. It prophesies the way Jesus will die and how he will be raised again. And it prophesies about his hand piercing and be put on the cross way before crucifixion was even invented. They didn't know about it back then, but it was prophesied. And this is an amazing prophecy because it says that they assigned the grave with the wicked for Jesus. So he was to die with the wicked people. He died hanging on the cross between two wicked people. And that's the grave that he was assigned, but yet he was buried with the rich. In death, he was with the rich. We know that his body was taken by Joseph of Arimathea, who was a wealthy man, and he laid Jesus' body in his tomb. He was buried among the wealthy. Isaiah 53:10. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes his life an offering for sin, he will see his offspring and prolong his days, and the will of the Lord will prosper in his hand. This statement, again, it says it over and over again. It could not be clearer. It was God's will to make his son an offering for our sins. It was God's will. He wanted to do it. It just didn't happen because mankind is sinful. It didn't happen as an example. It was his plan all along. It was the Lord who crushed him and caused him to suffer and to make his life an offering for our sins. So his life was an offering. His death and his resurrection was all for our sins. It's prophesied here that God would not leave him in the grave. He will rise him up again. And so God will prolong his days and make him prosper. Isaiah 53:11. After he has suffered, he will see the light of life and be satisfied. By his knowledge my righteous servant will justify many, and he will bear their iniquities. Jesus will rise again, and he will be satisfied with the work he has done. It is through the knowledge of what Jesus did on the cross that many will be justified. If you remember, justified means forgiven. It is through his work on the cross that we are forgiven, and we are forgiven because he bore our iniquities. Isaiah 53:12. Therefore I will give him a portion among the great, and he will divide the spoils with the strong, because he poured out his life unto death, and was numbered with the transgressors. For he bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. Jesus poured out his life. He purposely allowed himself to be numbered among transgressors for our sake. That's where we belonged. And therefore he bore our sins and our punishment. So he is now able to intercede on the behalf of us who are the sinners, and ask God for forgiveness for us. And God will give us forgiveness on account of what Jesus did on the cross.